Hello, Martin Walsh here from Major Equipment, and today I'm just going to do a quick walk around on our new 2,000 gallon Pro model, and this one's complete with a full trailing shoe. So here we have one of our new 2,000 gallon Pros. The Pro has three main upgrades in the specification over the standard 2,000 gallon. We have a baffle inside which reduces the splashing when you're traveling at speed. That wasn't in the standard 2,000 gallons. We've also upgraded our axle specification. So on your 2,000 gallons before, you had a tin stud hub which had a 75 to 80 mil brake pad. On the newer models now, we're using a 180 mil brake pad, so it's more than double of the surface area, so you have much better braking. The other small feature, which is on all the 2000 Pros, is the swivel hitch is now standard. It's a bit easier when you're towing, get a nicer ride, and also a lot easier to replace when the time would come a few years down the road. Can be replaced easily in minutes. So like all our 2000 gallons and 1700s and 15s, this tank comes as standard with a galvanised finish. It's galvanised inside and out. Paintwork is only on the outside, there's no internal painting. Also, all the ancillary bits like drawbar, trail and shoe, everything is galvanised, so it really is a lifetime job. The other standard features on any of our tanks where we're putting on a low emission units, we standardise them all with a wide angle PTO shaft, so waterside wide angle shaft. Make it easy turning, and when you're filling that you can leave your PTO running even if you're parked at an angle. We have the sight tube over here so you can read the level you're at. You know what's happening all the way along, and when you're in the field spreading, especially with the trailing shoe, it's hard to see the slurry exiting. You don't know if the tank is empty or not, and you have no idea how fast the slurry is leaving. So they all have the side door now. If they've got a low emissions unit, there's no door on the back anymore with the new way we mount them. So we have a 20-inch side door, very handy for washing out the tank or anything you have to do inside. We also have the mud flaps, Major branded mud flaps. They're standard on the rear, a good heavy mud flap, keeping the unit at the back nice and clean. We also have the standard Major lights now, which is double lights on the tanker, another set of lights on the back of the trailing shoe or dribble bar. We also have a beacon and plough lights, which means you can work later on those spring evenings, and they're all LED lights as standard, of course. All our 2,000 gallon Pros have the recessed wheels, and 99% of them are sold on the 800 tyre. It's an 865 R32 tyre. Very good tyre. We use that tyre all the way up to our 3,100 gallon tankers on a single axle. We're using this Granning tin stud hub with the full commercial brakes on it, the same again as what we use on a 3.1 or a 2.600 gallon tank. So on this 2,000 gallon tank, it's really well spec'd. Just something I want to talk about, the hinges that we use. They're all greasable hinges on any of our low emissions units. When you're traveling at speed and all the movement up and down and everything, pins wear a lot. So we use a bolt on each side and a greasable bearing in there on the hinge. 20-foot pipe, filler pipe, that's standard, the 20-foot one. And again, just moving around here, something that this customer went with is a new toolbox with wash station that we have. So you've got like little soap dispenser here if you want. You've got your water there, wash the hands or whatever, and a lovely toolbox here. You can get it open. So it's just a nice compact little unit, plenty of room for a pair of gloves, couple of little tools you might need, and your operator's manual. So, and all locks up, and there's a key there, keep it all safe and clean. Another filler point here, as I said, he went with 4 fill points on the tank. Handbrake is standard with the breakaway back to the tractor, and of course the Battioni Pagani 9,000 litre pump, perfect pump for a tank this size. On this tanker, we see it here on a Massey Ferguson 5610. That's a 100 horsepower typical Stockman's tractor, complete with front loader. It's 4.5 ton maybe, well able to work this tank even on quite hilly marginal ground like we have here in County Mayo. Another nice feature on this tanker, and I recommend it for people, there's a camera mounted here. You can just see it, and obviously a little screen inside. Very handy for reversing, very handy when you're actually working, that you can see what's going on at the back of the tank, because you're quite a bit away when you're sitting in the cab. And that was supplied by Tool and Light in Ballyhonest. Big thanks to David Morley, he supplies us with a lot of those cameras. He has a good range of different ones for different models of tractors. So again, like all the major tankers, we've got heavy rails here on the side of the tank. 6mm plate in the drums, 7.5mm plate in the spun ends, and we have the suspension unit that we use on all the major tankers. That's with the rubber buffer shock absorber and a spring on the outside, just keeping that all tight and keeping it together. You don't get too much movement, but it takes all the thump out of it when you're towing the tank. And here is the control box for the low emissions units. So on one side you've got this spool here, which will operate your macerator, and it also operates the gate valve to let the slurry up into the macerator. So we have a 6-port diverter on that spool, so you're getting 2 functions out of 1 spool valve. So any tractor with 2 double acting spool valves can operate a trailing shoe, even the 9.6 meter ones. The folding and unfolding is on this switch, so when that switch is up, that locks the wings. So when you're in transport position, you flick that up, and even if you work the spool valve, the wings won't drop. So when you're in traffic or something, that something wouldn't get caught there, or a pipe burst or something happens and the wings comes down. You flick that switch down, you work your spool, and the wings go up and down. Over here we have the switch just separate for the plough lights. So they're not on your main light line. It's on a separate line here. So when you need the plough lights, you just flick the switch. So the best feature on our control box, I think, is these 2 little lights here. So when it's on a green light, that means your macerator is working away perfectly and it's not under any pressure. But if hydraulic pressure starts building up, the red light here will flash, and you know that your macerator is getting a lot of resistance, maybe in tough slurry or maybe a bit of wood in there or something. And if you reverse your spool valve, then you'll catch it and it'll help to chop it, keep it moving, and it prevents any blockages. It's important when you're working your macerators to change direction forward to reverse anyways. That means you'll get twice as long out of your blades, it keeps them sharper, and it does prevent blockages. So as I said, the farmer in this case went for 7.5 meter trailing shoe. There is an option on a 9.6 meter as well, which is a nice unit. And actually the 9.6, when it's in transport mode, it actually folds up. It's even lower than this one. It's just about the height at the top of the tank. Available on the 2000 as well. It means that you can put out maybe lower rates of slurry at the same ground speed, which can be tricky with the smaller units trying to get it down to maybe 2,000 gallons per acre. It also means you can cover the ground without travelling on as much. So it means you can cover the ground without leaving as many tram lines and maybe working into a wetter space or under hedges and things like that. All of our tanks now have the same mounting system for the low emissions units. So these brackets here are all welded internally on the dished end and externally here, and the pipe coming out feeding just comes out there. So we can fit our 9.6, our 10s or our 12s all on this system. Over here you have your pipes carried here, these supports, trying to keep those hoses as neat as possible, good flow so they don't kink when they're being folded and unfolded. Coming down here to a rubber boot that the slurry leads through, and you can see that bar, it's just touching the ground there, just separating the grass. Slurry's coming out here, so you have less spoilage of grass and no slurry getting onto it. So you can return to grazing much quicker. You can see all the float that we have there. And also this wing is able to float as well. So really there's no type of ground that wouldn't travel on and follow very well. So your slurry comes out into this. There's a good size sump there, so instead of having a tight swept 90-degree bend or trying to have a pipe coming out of the side of the tank here like some manufacturers are still using, it all comes into this box here and has plenty of space, and it can be open there to drain out and clean when you've finished using it. If you have any blockages, it's easy to reach from here. You have your double acting ram here, that opens to let the slurry up into the macerator. So this customer went with the Mastech macerator. It's also available with the Vogelsang macerator. 7.5 meter units, all of 30 outlet macerators. Good hydraulic motor on it. Honestly, all of these work really, really well. If the slurry is in any reasonable condition, you'll have no problems. So if you do go for the 9.6 meter or any of the larger flexi shoes, the grant is quite generous on the width of them. So really the extra cost is well covered with the grant.